so I'm Amy Palmer. I am from the Ministry of Transportation in Ontario. And we're going to take a look at the proposed new Entrant Education Evaluation Program for Ontario. And it is a proposed program right now, but we have been working on it a fair bit. So today we're going to go through and take a look at what the new Entrant program is all about, or NEEEP, as I'll refer to it. How it's going to improve and link to our CBOR certificate process that we have today. Some of the objectives and benefits. And we'll look a little bit at the jurisdictional scan that was completed in our discussions with stakeholders. And then we'll get into the components of it. There's 3 parts to NEEEP: who will be participating, how it'll be delivered, some of the IT requirements that we've identified, and some expansion options. Okay, so we'll start with what is NEEEP. So it is a new entrant education and evaluation program. And when I use the term new entrant, I'm referring to new truck or bus operators operating in Ontario. And these are operators that are applying for their commercial vehicle operators registration or CBOR certificate. NEEEP will require the CBOR holders to learn Ontario's safety rules and their best practices and demonstrate how they've applied them within their operation, within the first 18 months of their operation. So we've completed a feasibility study and identified what the best approach is. So when I'm talking about a new entrant and an operator of a truck and bus company, it's not necessarily a driver. It's it can be a driver, they can be a CBOR holder and a driver, or many drivers can operate under the same CBOR. So what is a CBOR certificate? Any operator of a commercial vehicle that's plated in Ontario, US or Mexico, that's traveling in Ontario requires a CBOR certificate before they can start operating on Ontario's roads. This program was implemented in 1986. And MTO uses this program with an automated monitoring system in order to issue and renew CBOR certificates, and it monitors their road safety. It issues the carrier safety ratings, and it's what we use to initiate corrective action. And it can include up to suspension and cancellation of an operator's privileges on Ontario's roads. So a CBOR certificate can be renewed, it can be revoked, it can be refused, or we can also choose not to renew them, based on the operator's compliance to the Ontario Highway Traffic Act. So currently today, in order to obtain a CBOR certificate, you must fill out the application form. So you're providing your name, your business name, contact information, the type of material that you'll be hauling, if you're transporting passengers, how many, how far you plan on traveling over the course of the year, any license information, proof of insurance, and pay the application fee. Currently, we have no requirement that the operator can demonstrate the knowledge of their obligations that are associated with becoming a commercial vehicle operator. So that's where NEEEP comes in. There's 2 components of NEEEP. Education, which is looking at providing the foundational elements of Ontario's carrier safety laws, as well as a carrier safety management best practices. So we want to educate the operators not only what to do, but also how to do it. And the second part is the evaluation. So this is a non-enforcement verification of the operator's safety management and oversight program to ensure that the new entrant has taken this information that they've learned and they're now applying it to their daily operations. So some of the objectives, we want to develop this education and evaluation program for new truck and bus operators. We want to be able to provide that foundational knowledge, ensure that new entrants clearly understand what their obligations are, and they are capable of applying the rules of operating safely in Ontario. NEEEP was previously proposed in response to recommendations from our Auditor General, as well as stakeholders have also recommended it and support it, in order to reduce the incidence of collision and improve compliance. So some of the benefits that we're hoping to get out of the new entrant program, is to enhance truck and bus road safety by improving our ministry's ability to control the entry and exit into our CVOR program. We're also hoping that it's going to help the frontline enforcement staff to focus on those who are non-compliant, as opposed to those who are just not aware or familiar with what the safety rules are. And the ones that are non-compliant, they're the ones that represent a greater risk. It also supports our desire to shift away from the traditional violation detection and penalty-based system and move towards more balanced approach of education and evaluation. It can also be expanded to include established truck and bus operators that have a poor on-road safety record. So if someone has identified that they have a low safety rating, that they're non-compliant, and they come into the ministry to rectify the situation, this can be one of the remedies that they're sent back through the new Entrant program. So some of the things that we looked at, some of the studies that we looked at were based out of the US in order to support a new Entrant program. So this represents some of the figures that we looked at. So they had safety evaluation areas, and in this study, a new entrant was anyone who had less than 2 years experience operating. And it was based on a percentile. So those that were in the worst 25th percentile were considered deficient. So they looked at areas such as accident rates, safety rates, moving violation rates, vehicle safety, and safety management. And as you can see by the numbers, the new entrants were almost double with their percent that were proficient than those experienced carriers. So additional research also showed that the violation rate analysis based on audits showed that there was a clear learning curve based on experience level. So those who have been operating longer had fewer violations based on their age. So we also took a look at some of the education programs that are available and did a jurisdictional scan, including Canada, the US, European Union, Australia, and New Zealand. So these are a few of the things that we found that are available. In some of the US states, they have mandatory education or mandatory training for their new truck and bus operators. The US have the most evolved new entrant program. And that includes education material. They have quite a detailed manual that they provide to their new entrants. And then after they've been operating for a period of time, they bring them all into a room similar to this. They provide an information session for their new entrants, and it's followed immediately by an evaluation. So when the new operators come in, they're bringing their records with them. And then some of the provinces in Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, have developed safety management compliance manuals. And when this was looked at and we compared Ontario's manual to other manuals, we realized that we needed to improve that as well. So in addition to looking to see what everyone else is doing, we also spoke to key stakeholders in Ontario and did detailed interviews with 9 of them. So overall, the stakeholders were supportive and agreed with bringing in a new entrant program for Ontario. They all agreed that there was a mandatory test should be required before a new entrant operates on Ontario roads, and an on-site evaluation should be required for the exit from the program. Education and training, although they felt it could be available to all new entrants, it should be handled through the private sector. So this is the same as driver education. You're not required to take training, but it is available through the private sector. Also, there's a need to develop and make available enhanced safety education materials, and that sanctions should be handled through the existing CVOR process, the same manner for all operators. So whether you're a new entrant or you're an existing carrier, there's no effect on your safety rating for being in the new entrant program. You'd be treated the same. So there's 3 stages to NEEEP, and we'll go through each of them in detail. The first is an enhanced safety education material. The second is a proficiency test, and the third stage is an evaluation. So we'll go through each of these, and then we'll look at how they all flow together and how they'll be implemented. So first, let's discuss who's going to be required required to participate in NEEEP. So NEEEP would apply to Ontario-based operators, and it will not include out-of-province operators. So all new entrants in Ontario, regardless of size, will receive the same education material and content. However, there will be additional knowledge required for the proficiency test and evaluation for those that are hauling dangerous goods or transporting passengers. We also want to keep it open to be able to identify that in some situations, some carriers may require an exemption, and that would be more on a case-to-case basis. So an example of that could be the film industry, where they're coming into Ontario for a very short period of time and it's quick, they need to bring in their equipment, do what they need to do and leave. That may be a situation where an exemption will be granted. The education and the proficiency test should be completed by the individual responsible for the operator's safety and compliance, and that would be the corporate officer or an applicant. And any current CVOR holder or someone who has held a valid CVOR within the last 3 years would not be required to go through the program. So it's just for the new entrants that are entering in. So the first component is the enhanced education. So with this, we've developed a commercial vehicle operator safety manual, and it is online. So this manual has Ontario safety rules and self-assessment tools, and it provides the how-to of maintaining compliance. So it's available to all operators and all drivers online, but new entrants will be directed to go to the manual to take a look at it as they're applying. So this would be considered self-taught learning, and it helps the clients to learn at their own pace while accommodating the different learning needs. In addition to the manual, we also have plans to create a study guide to assist those that are preparing for the proficiency test. So as you can see, the manual has 14 modules here, so I just put up the topics that are available in the manual. And we also created an online educational practice test, so you can kind of test your knowledge and if you want to take a look at it. So the second stage, you get your manual, you read it, you've got your study guide, and then you move on to stage 2, which is the proficiency test. So this is a prerequisite for a CVOR certificate. So the new entrants must pass the proficiency test prior to operating on Ontario's roads. The test content is going to be based on the safety manual. And again, there'll be specific questions for those that are transporting dangerous goods or carrying passengers. So the ministry plans on developing multiple choice questions, about a bank of about 500 questions, in order to develop several versions of a test. It'll be about 30 to 50 questions each. The test will be completed by the corporate officer or by the applicant of the CVOR. And they'll require an 80% in order to pass. So although the entrant will have an unlimited attempt to pass this written proficiency test, they do have a limit that they have to complete within 6 months, and there is a test fee that would apply for each test or retest. This proficiency test will be monitored by a third party. It's currently at our drive test center. So this is where people go to do their written driver's test when they're on road tests. We're planning on using that same service provider. And it's proposed that the cost of administering the test will be borne by the applicant, so there will be a test fee. So then the third stage. So we've had our manual, we've read it, we learned it, we went and took our proficiency test and passed. So now we're on the road and we're operating. So then we reach our third stage. So after we've been operating for about 6 months and we have some records, then we would go on to the evaluation. So the evaluation is proposed to be on site and take from 2 to 4 hours. So the new entrant must be operating for at least 6 months prior to taking the evaluation, so we have something that we can evaluate. And they must complete it within 18 months. And this evaluation is the exit from NEEEP. So once they have successfully completed the program, then they would get a renewable CVOR. They do the same as every other truck or bus operator. So this evaluation is going to be safety focused as opposed to enforcement based. They'll have 2 opportunities to pass the evaluation, and after the second failed attempt, their CVOR certificate would not be renewed and they no longer operate. However, if it comes to that, then there is a 30-day waiting period and they can start again. So they would go through the application process again, learn, test, and then evaluation. There's other considerations with the evaluation. There could be a conditional pass. So if someone has a minor violation, say there's a record-keeping issue that can be easily corrected and verified, then they could get a conditional pass where they just confirm that they've rectified the situation and then they carry on. And on the other side, there may be violations that would cause an automatic failure. So in order to pass the safety evaluation, operators must demonstrate that they've taken all this knowledge that they've learned and they've implemented it into their program, and they have a safety management program that is sustainable within their business. They have the ability to show that the system identifies non-compliance, and they have the steps to correct these instances in place. So it'll be a review of their files, records, their policies, their procedures, in order to determine that they have a sustainable safety management program in place. Failing the evaluation would not lead to any charges. However, if there was a significant safety compliance issues, then it could trigger a suspension. So I'm not sure how well you can see this, but this is kind of the framework, and this might bring it all in together for you. So normally I walk around and point, but I'm a little far away and it's a little big. So bear with me. So it starts with the first green box there. The new entrant wants to become a bus or a truck operator, so they would fill out their application. At that time, there's a vetting process that the ministry goes through in order to ensure that there's someone who should be starting a trucking busing operation. So once they get the go-ahead, they'd be directed to our online manual, which is the Commercial Vehicle Operator Safety Manual. And there, we would move over, to the proficiency test. So you get your manual, you read it, you look at your study guide, you're ready to go, you can move over to the proficiency test. So this could all happen fairly quickly, or it can take up to a maximum of 6 months. So once you get to the proficiency test, then we're asking the question, have you passed it? Did you get 80%? And if you haven't, then you're back to the manual, back to studying. And if you do get the 80%, then you receive your CVOR certificate. And you can now start operating on the road. So once you've been operating for that 6 months, then you move over to the purple. So that is our safety evaluation. So you have the on-site safety evaluation. As you can see, you have the 2 attempts to pass. And we ask the question, if there's an error, is it a minor error, something that can be fixed easily, or is it a full-out failure where you go to your second attempt? So once you've passed the evaluation, you would get your renewable CVOR, and you're on the road, you're done, you've exited the program. If you fail for the second time, then your CVOR would not be renewed, you'd no longer be able to operate, and you'd be back up at the beginning if you chose to. So how is this going to be delivered? So the CVOR manual is currently online, so the Commercial Vehicle Operator Safety Manual is currently online, and it's available for anybody, as well as an educational practice test. And new entrants will be directed to go to that website, take a look at the manual, and that's what they need to know in order to pass their test. The program is going to be available in French and English. However, qualified translators can be used for the proficiency test and for the evaluation portion. The results will be recorded in their CVOR system. However, the results of the new entrant program will not affect their carrier safety rating. That's separate. It's proposed that a third party will provide and administer the proficiency test. So as I said, at the drive test centers where the applicant would come in and complete that multiple choice test. And the delivery of the on-site evaluation is currently under review. So some of the IT needs for NEEEP. Fortunately, the ministry right now is currently looking at modernizing some of our databases, and the CVOR system is included in that. The project is called the Road User Safety Modernization Program. So we were able to look at the flow and look at the requirements that are needed for NEEEP and put that information out for the new system that's being built. So such as the registration and payment of the different NEEEP components, including the proficiency test and the evaluation. recording the steps and how an operator moves through the steps, so the system is tracking that for us. And staff going into the system would be able to identify where the operator is in the program. And also, we requested that the system are tracking them in order to send out automatic reminders that their due dates are coming up, and to bring accounts to the ministry's attention if the deadline could pass. In addition, we have reports that we have requested to be developed and systems in place so we can see when a test was passed, who took the test, the name of the individual, how many attempts it took to pass the proficiency test, and the test version that was taken. And also we want to make sure that the similar information is reported for the evaluation. So who completed the evaluation, who was the evaluator, who was the representative of the trucking or bus company, identify their first or second attempt, and also track any conditional passes. So some of the expansion options that we've also looked at and are considering, and this would be recommended after the new Entrant program is up and running. In addition to the manual and our practice test and the study guide that we have online, there could be other self-directed learning tools such as an e-learning course that could be considered to enhance the program in the future. Voluntary incentives for existing operators. It also could be used as enforcement action, as we discussed, for operators with a conditional safety rating. And partnership with insurance companies to provide new incentives for new entrants who pass a formal education. So I think we have that available. We have it in Ontario anyway. If you take a new driver's training course, then that would affect your insurance rating. So maybe we can look at partnerships like that. So finally, when are we planning on implementing this? So there's 3 stages to the program, and they'll be implemented in 3 stages. So the manual and the educational practice tests are completed. They're online now, and they've been online since March. The proficiency test, that'll be delivered by the third party in our drive test centers. We're anticipating that to start in 2013. And then the final step, the evaluation, which is the exit from the NEEEP program, we're anticipating that in 2014.